il terrorismo, la criminalità, l'emarginazione, le ineguaglianze, la mancanza di posti di lavoro per i giovani, per non dimenticare chiaramente anche i problemi ambientali che hanno un forte impatto sulle popolazioni e che privano le popolazioni di una visione per il futuro. Questo è l'effetto che io ritengo più negativo di tutto questo. Ma l'Africa però è anche un continente di grande letteratura, di fiorente industria cinematografica, di arte, creatività. Voglio ricordare che ieri abbiamo inaugurato proprio qui alla Farnesina una mostra sull'arte della Costa d'Avorio, bellissima. Peraltro nel mio studio, per esempio, ospito un'opera di Kabongo, che è un noto pittore angolano, e spero poi di arricchire la collezione, oltre anche a un bel manifesto di Nelson Mandela che presi durante la sua campagna elettorale in Sudafrica nel 1994. La scrittrice ghanese Taye Selasi ha coniato un termine che io trovo interessante, il termine Afropolitan, che sintetizza l'Africa di oggi. Un'Africa cosmopolita, partecipe del mondo globalizzato e che a pieno titolo si riappropria di un ruolo che si è vista negare dalla storia. L'Africa è il continente del futuro. Si parla di una crescita demografica record, è stato detto. Nel 2050 si pensa che gli africani costituiranno il 20% della popolazione mondiale, aumentando del 50% da oggi. La classe media è preparata, cosmopolita, pronta a sostenere l'economia in crescita. L'Africa subsahariana vede un PIL aumentato del 2,8% nel 2017, con un'accelerazione stimata del 3,4% nel 2018. Sono numeri molto importanti. È il momento dunque di pensare a migliorare l'apparato produttivo, l'esportabilità, creare opportunità per gli individui creativi di mettere in atto le loro idee. Oggi chiaramente l'Africa si presenta con economie molto diversificate, non più solo monoculture o commodities, perché il mercato e la produttività è cambiata. Basti pensare alla Costa d'Avorio, all'Egitto, all'Etiopia, al Kenya, al Ruanda, solo per citare alcuni paesi. Poi c'è un superamento della forte frammentazione delle economie, divise e quasi contrapposte da ostacoli tariffari, dazi e quote, per aprirsi finalmente a un'area di libero mercato continentale. Infatti già nel 2017 è stato fatto un accordo per l'eliminazione dei dazi e delle barriere doganali sulla quasi totalità delle merci tra i 55 paesi africani. Queste sono tutte buone notizie. Ci sono inoltre grandi risorse al momento per l'Africa, per esempio la European External Investment Plan, che è parte dell'Alleanza Africa-Europa per gli investimenti sostenibili e l'occupazione. Questo è un programma grandissimo, in assoluto il più grande programma di investimento mai varato per l'Africa, con sovvenzioni, prestiti e garanzie che possono contare su oltre 40 miliardi di euro di investimenti privati entro il 2020. La Commissione europea prevede di creare con tali risorse fino a 10 milioni di posti di lavoro nei prossimi 5 anni e portare energia a 30 milioni di persone e strade a circa 20 milioni di persone. Io non posso naturalmente non menzionare la grande opera della cooperazione italiana, di cui in questo momento tra l'altro sono onorata di essere in qualche modo la guida ispiratrice, perché la cooperazione italiana ha dedicato all'Africa nel 2017 170 milioni di euro e nel 2018 180 milioni di euro, il che vuol dire che naturalmente il trend dovrà essere, se non confermato, in ascesa per il 2019 e questa è un'altra buona notizia. Il Ministero degli Affari Esteri e della Cooperazione Internazionale, insieme all'agenzia che sempre in collaborazione con il Ministero si occupa proprio della cooperazione, gestiscono una parte significativa di questi investimenti per l'Africa, con un 42% del totale che vengono destinati a tantissimi progetti che in Africa, per esempio dalla governance alla questione dei diritti, all'aiuto umanitario, allo sviluppo dell'industria alimentare, all'agricoltura e ovviamente grandissima parte dedicata all'istruzione, come il nostro amico ci ha ricordato poco fa. È un sistema complesso, ampio, molto interessante, con un approccio olistico che è l'unico possibile secondo me in questo momento. Desidero sottolineare che grande importanza riserviamo al settore privato perché è il motore della crescita. Infatti promuove innovazione e occupazione e investe nel capitale umano. Si vuole anche creare una forte sinergia tra il settore privato e le ONG impegnate nella cooperazione. Per quanto riguarda poi il discorso delle preferenze commerciali, l'Italia è promotrice nell'ambito dell'Unione Europea di varie iniziative. Voglio citarvi tra tante l'iniziativa Everything But Arms, che prevede l'ingresso a dazio zero per merci dai paesi africani meno avanzati, il sistema delle preferenze generalizzate e l'Economic Partnership Agreement. Sono cornici giuridiche che danno certezza agli imprenditori che vogliono investire. Siamo tutti d'accordo che i foreign direct investments sono prioritari. Questi sono gli strumenti. È stato raggiunto anche un accordo sulla trade facilitation nell'ambito dell'Organizzazione Mondiale del Commercio che definisce per esempio i tempi doganali, un'altra questione molto significativa. È molto importante, lo ripeto, creare competenze. Di cui programmi di espansione economica e crescita aziendale non possono fare a meno, ma la società in generale non può fare a meno. In questo l'Europa, l'Italia sono veramente capaci di contribuire fortemente. Il capacity building è uno dei capitoli su cui dobbiamo investire maggiormente. L'Italia ha previsto un forte investimento nell'alleanza Africa-Europa per gli investimenti sostenibili e l'occupazione. Tra i programmi di cui beneficeranno i giovani africani, per esempio, c'è l'Erasmus+, e vorrei dirlo perché ho appena visto il rettore dell'Università Nazionale Somala che naturalmente sollecita maggiori rapporti con l'Italia e voglio dirgli che con questi sistemi ci saranno grandi possibilità. 35.000 studenti e docenti universitari africani avranno accesso al programma Erasmus Plus entro il 2020, mi sembra una notizia bellissima, ed entro il 2027 sono previste opportunità per altre 70.000 persone dall'Africa. Grande attenzione viene posta al programma che riguarda l'educazione alla formazione professionale. Ci sono le possibilità per 750.000 africani per ricevere formazione in vari campi. Anche questo è un elemento che naturalmente deve essere prioritario per tutti noi. È importante mutare la vecchia percezione dell'Africa come di un continente immobile nei suoi problemi storici. È una percezione inaccettabile perché l'Africa è il continente del dinamismo. Creatività è la parola chiave in questo momento storico dell'Africa, in tutti i sensi, anche politico. Basta guardare al processo di pace tra Eritrea ed Etiopia, che è frutto dell'iniziativa creativa di persone di forte volontà innovatrice per il bene delle popolazioni. Cosa può fare l'Italia? Una conferenza come questa ha un significato veramente profondo. Nel guardare tutti voi intorno al tavolo, penso a molti romanzi di autori africani della vecchia e nuova generazione che raccontavano del viaggio come di una ricerca di vita migliore, spesso in paesi lontani dai propri. Penso a Margot Jefferson, Yewande Omodoso, Claudia Ranchine, il premio Nobel Wole Soyinka, Naguib Mahfouz, Chinua Achebe, ma la lista è lunghissima e sono romanzi che io ho letto da quando ero ragazza e che continuo naturalmente a leggere anche oggi. Proprio per questo grande contributo anche proprio di sintesi culturale del rapporto tra Africa ed Europa, voglio ringraziare personalmente le diaspore africane in Europa e in particolare quelle in Italia, naturalmente, per il grande contributo che hanno dato allo sviluppo delle nostre società. Questo è un elemento che dobbiamo tenere ben presente e credo che il loro contributo nel futuro sarà ancora maggiore e ancora più significativo. Oggi questa grande opportunità di incontrarci intorno al tavolo fa comprendere che il vostro viaggio a Roma rappresenta la nostra comune volontà di creare le basi di quello sviluppo condiviso che deriva dal comune desiderio di individuare strategie di sviluppo che rispecchino le aspettative sia dei donatori sia dei beneficiari, sia di chi intende investire, sia di chi offre terreno per l'investimento e così via. È un rapporto bidirezionale che garantisce uno sviluppo condiviso, appunto, che dà risposte strutturali a lungo termine, nella consapevolezza che siamo tutti parte di un sistema di interdipendenze. E in questo quadro chiaramente bisogna restituire centralità alle persone in Africa, creando una visione che agisca da propulsore per il dinamismo sociale. Questo anche per creare alternative alla scelta migratoria che implica enormi rischi, violazioni dei diritti umani e che è responsabilità di tutti noi prendere in considerazione come una questione fondamentale in cui l'elemento della protezione e della comprensione delle motivazioni deve essere assolutamente una questione prioritaria per la nostra agenda. In questo quadro naturalmente voglio dire che il futuro dell'Italia è insieme all'Africa, a partire soprattutto dai giovani. Le risorse umane infatti, e con questo voglio concludere, sono la grande ricchezza che costruirà un mondo più giusto e più prospero per tutti. Grazie molto. Vi ringrazio molto per la vostra attenzione e desidero passare ora la parola a Sua Eccellenza Hamdi Zanaglosa, Vice Ministro degli Affari Esteri e degli Affari Africani dell'Egitto, per un quadro sulle priorità e sulle prospettive della Presidenza dell'Egitto dell'Unione Africana nel 2019.
Thank you. Your Excellency Manuela Del Rey, Deputy Foreign Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation of Italy, Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to express my deep appreciation to the government and people of Italy for this very strong hospitality and outstanding organization of this event. We highly appreciate the very strong message of hope and partnership that was delivered this morning by His Excellency President Mattarella, President of the Italian Republic. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister Moavero Milanesi, conveyed a message yesterday and once again this morning, and he reminded us that we cannot be in Rome and speak only of investment and trade. Culture, creativity, and cultural exchange are essential in getting to know each other, to appreciate each other, and to cooperate fruitfully with each other. We will make sure to reciprocate this message, and during the next African Film Festival, which will be hosted in Luxor, a city which has been a center of culture and art since the 21st century before Christ, we will make sure to have an adequate representation from Italy, the country of Antonioni, Fellini, Pasolini, Rossellini, and others. Your Excellencies, Egypt's presidency of the African Union will start in February 2019. It will actively build upon the efforts of President Kagame, his strong commitment and dynamic leadership. I would like to seize this opportunity to pay tribute to President Kagame and to congratulate Minister Louise Mushikiwabo for her election as Secretary General of the Francophonie Organization. I would like also to convey my best regards and best wishes to His Excellency Richard Sisebera, the new Foreign Minister of Rwanda. Migration and internally displaced persons has been adopted as the African Union theme topic for 2019. It's a topic that needs to be addressed from its humanitarian aspect, its economic and security manifestations and root causes. Egypt's presidency will spare no efforts in addressing this problem in cooperation with our partners. as we are already an active participant in all international, continental, and sub-regional based efforts, most notably the African Union Horn of Africa Initiative on Human Trafficking and Smuggling of Migrants, and the Initiative on Migration Routes known as the Khartoum Process. Your Excellency, the root causes of migration lead us directly to the issue of peace and security. If our objective is to silence the guns in 2020, we have to act now, not only through peacekeeping operation, but mainly through conflict resolution and conflict prevention. In this context, we congratulate Eritrea and Ethiopia for their courage, the joint declaration of peace and friendship signed last July, and the normalization of relations between their people. Another positive development is the signature of the revitalized agreement on the resolution of conflict in South Sudan signed in September. Let us hope that these major positive developments will deepen and extend the peace and security situation in the region and will lead to a broader region of peace and stability and prosperity in the Horn of Africa and the Red Sea. The Sahel region is another area where we need a comprehensive strategy in the fight against terrorism and violent extremism. We recognize and appreciate the clear interest and profound engagement of Italy in the countries of these regions, as well as with Libya. Instability in Libya during the last few years had disruptive repercussions in the Sahel. We are confident that when the Libyan people will regain their peace and stability, it will have a huge impact, not only on the Sahel region, but also in the Mediterranean. Finally, Your Excellency, a word on trade and investment. In anticipation of our presidency, we will be hosting an Africa Trade Ministers meeting in December to promote ratification and implementation of the Continental Free Trade Area Agreement signed in March in Rwanda. This meeting will be followed by the first Pan-African Trade Fair in Cairo from 11 to 17 December. Italy demonstrated a clear political engagement towards Africa. Your companies have an outstanding record of achievement, and your brand's a reputation of excellence. You will find in Africa governments ready for business, a young and vibrant private sector, and an African Union Commission ready to support and coordinate efforts in priority areas such as infrastructure, energy, tourism, education, and vocational training. We had the opportunity to convey this message to the Italian Federation of Industries delegation during its recent visit to Alexandria, the Suez Canal Authority, who is serving as a gateway linking Genoa, Trieste, Venice, and other Italian ports to East African ports and beyond, welcome your interest in the Belt and Road Initiative, and our private sector is looking forward to expand and strengthen a partnership that has been mutually beneficial for centuries between our countries. Thank you.
Grazie Eccellenza. Passo ora la parola a Sua Eccellenza Amani Abu Zeid, Commissario dell'Unione Africa per le infrastrutture e l'energia.
Good morning, everyone. Your Excellency, Madam Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Italy and dear friend, Your Excellency, the Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission and dear brother, Honorable Ministers and Heads of Delegations, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. On the occasion of the Italy-Africa Conference, I would like first to thank the Italian government for organizing this historic event. I think I will be repeating many of the speeches before me in saying that Italy has had a long history of successful cooperation with Africa and has contributed positively to the infrastructure particularly to the infrastructure and energy development of our continent. Major hydropower generation projects and highways have been built by Italian contractors around the continent. Renewable energy, as well as oil and gas exploration efforts, have gained from the participation of Italian firms. The new approach adopted by Italy will no doubt add momentum to already existing thriving cooperation at bilateral level by introducing a new and important dimension of continental and regional cooperation. As you know, Excellencies, continental and regional cooperation is key to Africa's development going forward. The paradigm for development is through the continental integration building upon the action led by our regional economic communities, RECs. And another important element for African paradigm in development is that development is people-centered and private sector-led. Africa's cooperation with her partners is thus focusing more and more on creating opportunities and moving away from aid-based mentality. The African Union Commission is working closely with RECs and with EU member states to create this enabling environment for businesses and for investment in the infrastructure, energy, and ICT sectors through the Programme for Infrastructure Development, PIDA, as well as other initiatives, and also through the harmonization of policy and regulatory frameworks. Increased connectivity in the continent through road, rail networks, ICT, and provision of adequate energy will open up the continent for business and investment by private sector in all sectors to achieve the planned ambitious physical integration of our continent. Excellencies, distinguished guests, it is with a great sense of optimism and pride that I recall that the year 2018 will forever be remembered as the year of African integration. Earlier this year, we launched the Single African Air Transport Market, the African Digital Identity .Africa, the African Continental Free Trade AfCFTA, together with the Protocol on the Free Movement of Persons, Right of Residence and Right of Establishment. Furthermore, the ongoing implementation of the Programme for Infrastructure Development in the continent is achieving significant progress in the fields of aviation, railways, road, ICT, and energy networks that are aimed at interconnecting and bringing about the economic transformation of Africa. These initiatives and flagship projects demonstrate once again Africa's firm desire to improve the lives of its people and also ushers the huge opportunities made available to both Africans and non-Africans. Africa is indeed not only rising but leaping forward. Our youth are a dynamic resource and a ready market where the private sector can thrive. I hope that the re-energized Italian cooperation will tap into this potential as our already strong ties move some more notches higher. Excellencies, on the occasion of the Italy-Africa Conference, I would like to thank the Italian government for a new line of cooperation between the African Union and Italy to boost the renewable energy efforts. So as another demonstration of this tight cooperation, I have the pleasure to announce to all of you that today at noon, we shall sign a new agreement between the African Union and Italy in the field of renewable energy. A grant and know-how provided by Italy will help us work together and collaborate on the development of implementation of enabling frameworks for renewable energy integration, for promoting training and capacity building programs with the objective of transmitting knowledge and capabilities to our people, strengthening the capacity of the stakeholders and decision makers through the development of renewable energy programs, and training a high-skilled workforce for specific areas by promoting educational policies and providing all the competencies and advanced tools to assess and to deploy the most appropriate solutions in different renewable energy contexts. It will be an honor to see you all at noon at the room called Teleconferencia Room to witness the signing of the signing ceremony. And I thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Thank you for reminding us of very concrete elements and the need to sign agreements and also to talk about infrastructure and energy. Sorry, parlato in inglese. Si, je m'excuse, je parle en anglais, mais non, je vais remercier la madame pour nous rappeler qu'on doit signer des mémorandums et aussi de faire quelque chose pour l'énergie et les infrastructures parce que ça c'est une question très importante. Je m'excuse pour la confusion entre les différentes langues de travail aujourd'hui. Allora, grazie tanto e grazie. Ora è il turno di Sua Eccellenza Vera Songue, segretario esecutivo di UNECA, che è la Commissione Economica delle Nazioni Unite per l'Africa. Prego.
Grazie. Good morning, everybody. Your Excellency Emanuela De Tre, Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation of the Republic of Italy. His Excellency Kwesi Kwartey, the African Union Deputy Chairperson. Excellencies, Foreign Ministers, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. A lot has been said this morning, and it's a pleasure, and we thank you very much for having the United Nations with you this morning to talk about, I think, the cooperation between Italy and Africa. For us at the United Nations, this conversation clearly is within the SDG goals and how we ensure that Africa meets the Agenda 2030. It's 12 years away, and the question is, can we make it? I want to structure my remarks this morning around three big issues: the global macroeconomy, the question of trade, and of course the question of jobs on the continent. What do we see when we look at the global macroeconomic situation in the world today, and how does that refer to Africa? I think a lot has been said this morning about the fact that we see growth. The world economy is growing, and I think we're all very happy about that, but there are some substantial risks that we see on the horizon. Africa, however, is continuing to grow, but it's not growing as fast. We're growing from about 3.1% to 3.8 or 4.1%, depending on how one looks at the numbers. It is growing, and so the trend is up, but the trend is not high enough. We know that at 4.1%, Africa cannot withstand the kinds of job demands that it needs, and it cannot increase GDP per capita because growth is not what we're looking for. We're actually looking for prosperity, and we need a prosperous Africa to get that. You need GDP per capita to increase and to increase faster. So we do think that even though we have positive news on the continent, even though we have positive news in the global environment, there are still some risks that we have to do. The good news, again, is that Africa has put in place a number of fiscal buffers. So revenue to GDP is growing up, not as fast, but there is a clear conscience on the African continent today, and our African ministers of finance and our governments are ensuring that revenue to GDP continues to increase. And this is, I think, again, a domestic and homegrown solution to ensure that there is overall stability. There is a growth in the space of African investment. We see a lot more African investment, Africans investing in Africa. There has been a substantial growth of that kind of investment on the continent, and we hope that that continues to increase because, as we all know, macro stability also happens when you don't have capital flight. And with the changing macroeconomic environment globally, capital flight remains a risk for the continent. So as we have more continental investments happening on the continent, that again assures a more stable macroeconomic environment. This is the good news on the continent, is the policy framework is good, the macroeconomics is strong, we are beginning to put in place the right kind of buffers to ensure that growth can be sustained. However, for us to do that, we need a global environment that is also conducive. And this brings us to the question of trade and how Africa engages with the rest of the world on the trade question. I think that the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs has talked about a number of trade agreements that Africa is looking into and Africa is talking about. Of course, there are the EPAs. We're now talking about renegotiating the Cotonou agreements. And so this is sort of Africa with the rest of the world. But the rest of the world is also looking at trade. And so we are looking at issues around the Trans-Pacific Trade Agreement. There are issues around the reopening of NAFTA. And I think that what that is beginning to show is, while we as a global community believe that trade is important, we as a global community also believe that the right kind of trade negotiations are even more important. And I think that this is where, again, Africa begins to play an important role. As we talk about trade, we're not just talking about commodity trade, and I think the minister talked about Africa and the commodity trade. We're beginning to look at trade in the digital space. I think we've talked today a lot about culture and what kind of intellectual property rights we need to ensure that when Africa gets into this trading space, our property rights are protected and that we can actually trade in a sustainable fashion with the rest of the world. And I think that that is where the discussion on the continent is going now with trade. And the importance, I think, when we come here to talk about a stable multilateral environment in which, through the WTO, we can have discussions around e-commerce. I think that when we talk about growth today and we talk about the youth, e-commerce is clearly the way to go and is clearly going to be what Africa should do. And for that, I think we are happy to have Italy as a partner as we look at how we discuss trade and trading modalities in the global community. On the question of trade again, there are clearly issues around foreign currency and how we do trade and how we want to continue trading with the global environment. Clearly we see that as America begins to stabilize, tapering comes in, interest rates go up, the fact that Africa trades a lot in either euros or dollars is causing us a debt crisis. And so we need to link the question of how we trade and the currencies in which we trade with our macroeconomic stability and begin to look at increasingly working with local currencies on the continent that can protect us from foreign currency debt exposure. Because while we are doing very well on the macro space, there is still, I think, an issue of growing foreign currency debt on the continent that we need to manage around policy uncertainty. So that's the sort of big other issue. And finally, of course, is the issue of jobs. We know that Africa has to create 17 million jobs a year just to absorb the youth that are coming into the job market. This can be a challenge or it can be an opportunity. And I think that as the previous speakers have said, and Commissioner Buzzi especially, but also the President of the Republic of Italy this morning, it can be a very big opportunity given the demographic imbalance. I think that a lot of the times when we talk about demographics, we talk about a growing Africa, but we don't talk about a shrinking Europe or a shrinking East Asia. And I think that when we talk about that in its entirety, we begin to see the mutually reinforcing benefits of one demography increasing the other demography. And I think that there are already initiatives, a lot of the multilateral initiatives that they're looking at how you use funds from Europe to be invested in Africa so that we can continue to grow European funds is one of those initiatives that we believe that we can talk about as we talk about growth on the continent. We believe that as you move towards the digital age, Africa and every young African begins to become an industry because it becomes the Africa of innovation. Our youth will become the innovators of tomorrow. So we will not have factories, we will just have brains working around the continent, innovating and growing. And the question then becomes, how do we ensure that that kind of growth is the growth that is shared? But more importantly, and I think that this is where Italy becomes important, Italian investment on the continent has grown by $10.3 billion recently. You are the largest FDI onto the continent. You are coming in sustainably, and we're very grateful for coming together with the SDGs. Yesterday we had a conversation about how we can ensure that we take those 10 billion to 20 billion. Today we have a bond market on the continent that is doing very well and that is growing. And I think the proposal that we have here is that as the African bond markets, which are today dominated by short-term government paper, maybe we can move from an African bond market that is dominated by sovereign bonds into an African bond market that is mostly corporate bonds, with initiatives like creating a sustainable development goals infrastructure bond that makes sure that we can provide the kind of energy that we need on the continent to grow. 590 million people on the continent today do not have access to energy. But we cannot look to we cannot look to public investment or state investment or even donor aid to ensure that Africa grows. We need to go to the capital markets. And initiatives like a Sustainable Development Energy Bond would allow us to consolidate and circumspect enough capital to ensure that we don't need to wait another 10 years to provide energy to all the Africans so that they can grow. We know that if they don't have energy, 30% of the digital economy is energy. So for us to be able to sustainably move into this fourth industrial age, we will need to provide energy to the continent. And so I think one concrete example and one concrete suggestion that we at the United Nations, and I want to thank very much Italy because Italy is represented on the Secretary General's panel on sustainability at the UN, is that we come up with the Sustainable Development Bond that helps finance, first of all, Italian businesses on the continent across the sphere of sustainability, but starting with renewable energy. And as the Commissioner has said, we are signing a sustainability with the Rest for Africa and the team in Italy, an MOU today with the African Union to ensure and to demonstrate the importance of this on the continent. Finally, migration. I think that this year has been a watershed year on the continent because we have signed a lot of agreements. The trade agreements, the CFTA, which of course makes Africa 1.2 billion people, $2.3 trillion economy. It is an important economy. And we want the continent to move together. As part of an accompanying that agreement, we also signed the free movement of goods, of people. I think this is a clear recognition on the continent that we cannot grow as individual nations, 54 of us, we can grow as one large continent. And I think the signing of the free movement of goods is a clear example of Africa looking at the question of migration as an important economic base for us. Italy has, of course, been an important partner in the discussion at the United Nations on the Global Compact for Migration, which we hope that we will collectively sign in Morocco at the end of the year. The purpose of the question of migration is to ensure, first of all, free, safe, and orderly migration. There is always going to be migrants. And as the SG said, we want migration to happen because people leave voluntarily, not because they are forced and not because of conflict. We talked today a lot about the peace process in the Horn of Africa. Accompanying that peace process is a lot of migration. I live in a country today that has 1 million migrants, Ethiopia. Ethiopia is in the process of growing. It is a developing country and is able to receive 1 million migrants. And as the German Angela Merkel said, Ethiopia is coping. And I think that Ethiopia is coping just as well as Germany is coping and just as well as Italy coped. And we're happy for a discussion around this conversation. My sense is as we see from Ethiopia and as we see from Uganda and we see from Nigeria and all the other countries, Cameroon, that are hosting migrants, the question is how do we provide them with a kind of space for them to work? And this brings us to the digital age. Today we're looking at having a digital identity on the continent that allows for people that move around to have an identity, to be able to provide them with jobs, that allows them to stay on the continent and allows them to work. And we call, at least at the United Nations and at the African Union, as we look towards Agenda 2030, to see whether Italy can come with us on this digital movement, because we believe that the digital movement is really going to be what creates the jobs, what ensures an identity. I think the biggest problem when we talk about migration is that the migrants are invisible. And if we can give them an identity, they become visible. And the moment they can become visible, then they become a person and we can provide them with the kind of aid they need and bring them back into the financial inclusion community. So the second biggest, I think, plea that we have is to be able to, first of all, render the migrants human by giving them an identity, by giving them a name, ensuring that they can stay on the continent. We believe that by building a digital economy on the continent, many of the youth that leave the continent today will not have the desire to move across the continent, but the educated ones. And I think that when we talk about migration, we are having a debate on the continent about migration and mobility. Mobility is always going to happen, and I think as the President said and as the Minister of Foreign Affairs said, one of the things, including in Italy, and we need to learn from you, is how has mobility helped growth? Remittances are an important part of the African economy. They will continue to be for many countries, but we need to manage that in a governance environment that works well. So once again, thank you very much for inviting the United Nations here. We hope that together we can work towards achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, in particular for Africa. And we encourage the Italian private sector to come to the continent and work with us in that effort. Thanks, Emilia.
Grazie molto Eccellenza, io naturalmente ho detto
detto proprio che l'Africa oramai vede un'economia diversificata uscendo dalle commodities e dalle monoculture, quindi è chiaro che questo ritratto onnicomprensivo della situazione in Africa è estremamente opportuno, e soprattutto per introdurre i nostri panel che come primo vedono il titolo La ownership africana nei processi di pace. Va detto che negli ultimi mesi si sono verificati nel Corno d'Africa mutamenti di straordinaria attualità, e naturalmente mi riferisco al processo di pace tra Etiopia ed Eritrea, che si è allargato poi a livello regionale attraverso il positivo coinvolgimento nella dinamica di Somalia e Gibuti. Per questa ragione, anche in virtù delle forti relazioni che ci uniscono quei paesi, abbiamo deciso di affrontare il tema della ownership africana nei processi di pace, proprio in particolare attraverso gli interventi di due attori protagonisti di tale dinamica, i ministri di Etiopia Workneh Beyew e di Eritrea Osman Saleh, che saluto ovviamente con calore. Vorrei invitare il ministro Workneh a parlare, ricordando che abbiamo circa 5 minuti per l'intervento. Grazie.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Mr. Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs of Italy, Deputy Chair of African Union, distinguished ministers, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, let me express my deep appreciation and thanks to the government of Italy for taking this noble initiative to redefine the partnership between Africa and Italy in a manner that would harness their collective potential for the benefit of both Africa and the people of Italy. I would also like to convey my sincere thanks to the Italian government through Foreign Minister Enzo Masilani for the hospitality and for the excellent facilities put in our disposal for this conference. Excellencies, the second African-Italy conference is historical since it is taking place at a time when Africa has embarked upon the promising journey for peace and security in tandem with transformational socio-economic reform process. Africa has aligned its priorities with its Agenda 2063 and the Sustainable Development Goals that would require global partnership for their success. In this regard, in words noting that Africa has already identified through its Nepal initiative that only successful partnership at national, regional, and continental and global level would ultimately guarantee sustainable peace and prosperity. My country, Ethiopia, has embarked upon a deep reform agenda at home and a partnership for common peace, security, and prosperity in its neighborhood. This is already showing significant positive impact on the peace and security situation on the Horn of Africa. It is an honor to tell you that today what happened in my country. The Ethiopian Parliament has chosen the first ever female president or head of state in the political history of the country. Indeed, this is history for my country and Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Africa has resolved to silence the guns by 2020. Many observers are still skeptical about this resolution, and the deadline is only 2 years away. But the spectacular peace process between Ethiopia and Eritrea has proven that this target is indeed achievable. This amply showed that peace and security is not just dependent on elaborate peace and security architectures, but more importantly, on the political will and commitment of the leadership. It should be underlined that Ethiopia and Eritrea have embarked on this amazing peace journey without any involvement of third parties. They have demonstrated the process that Africans can find African solutions to African problems. comprehensive peace between Ethiopia and Eritrea has possible because of the political will and determination of the leadership of the two countries. Today, the prospect for peace and collective prosperity in the Horn of Africa is shining bright than ever. Somalia is steadily moving towards sustainable peace and development. As the current chair of IGAD, we are pleased to note that South Sudan is moving forward in a hopeful way, with the peace and reconciliation process spearheaded by IGAD and its member states. Ethiopia today is one of the top contributors of peacekeepers under the auspices of the United Nations, and in the case of AMISOM under the African Union. All of our contingents are deployed in Africa. This is a demonstration of our commitment to collective security. I wish to assure you that august audience that Ethiopia will continue to be committed to the cause of peace and security, as peace in Ethiopia is inseparable from peace in Africa. This conference has come to a unique juncture where our international partners should see the opportunity to reinforce the momentum for sustainable peace and regional integration initiatives in Africa in general and in the Horn of Africa in particular. With determination and political commitment, Africa can indeed see silence of the guns by 2020. Finally, in Africa as a whole and in the context of the Horn of Africa region, Italy, due to the historical links, is uniquely placed to take the lead in galvanizing partnership for peace and prosperity. I wish to note here that Italy has been co-chairing the IGAD Partnership Forum ever since it was established, and such experience can be put to good use through the bigger African-Italy Partnership Mechanism. And also, I should recognize and appreciate the effort made by the government of Italy through Foreign Minister Milanesi for his close coordination and consolidation with Ethiopia and Eritrea for consolidating the peace process in the Horn of Africa. I thank you very much.
Grazie Eccellenza per il suo importante intervento. Vorrei dare ora la parola al Ministro Saleh. Per favore, Ministro Saleh, a lei la parola.
Excellency, Deputy Foreign Minister of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the International Cooperation of the Republic of Italy, my fellow African ministers, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. Let me begin by thanking Italy for organizing this important forum to promote Africa-Italy relations for the second time in this eternal city, Rome. My brother and colleague, Wergene, the Foreign Minister of Ethiopia, and I have been asked to make some remarks on our experience of taking full responsibility on ownership, making peace. 4 months ago, Eritrea and Ethiopia gave themselves, their peoples, the Horn of Africa region, Africa and the world, a pleasant surprise, the gift of peace and friendship. They decided that the conditions and the time were right to end a sad and abnormal chapter, their relations, and go back to the normalcy. Over the years, many have offered to mediate between the two countries to no avail. And when peace finally broke out, require any mediation. The two countries did it on their own. It did not require any measures. Ethiopia accepted the Algiers agreement unconditionally. Eritrea decided to send a delegation to Addis Ababa. A week later, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed visited Eritrea and the peace and friendship agreement between the two nations was signed. Many think that the peace was preceded by protracted behind-the-scene negotiations. This was not the case. The first time that the two sides met and talked was when the Eritrean delegation landed in Addis Ababa. And it was not just a physical encounter, it was a meeting of minds. Thank you. Eritrea and Ethiopia have not just made peace. They have embarked on a partnership and complementarity and synergy, determined to make up for lost time and opportunities. They are prioritizing joint interests and investing in joint programs and projects. They have opened the common borders for the free movement of people and goods. Eritrea and Ethiopia have not limited themselves to forging the closest of bilateral relations. They have embarked on jointly fostering a regional partnership. Already, Eritrea, Ethiopia, and Somalia have signed an agreement on comprehensive cooperation in a tripartite summit in Asmara. They are determined to make it inclusive of the whole region. They need and welcome the contribution of all external partners, including, of course, Italy, which has a long association with the region, as was underlined by the recent visit of Prime Minister Fonte to Ethiopia and Eritrea. I thank you very much.
Grazie davvero, siamo molto felici di avervi avuti qua con noi a raccontarci questa bellissima esperienza del processo di pace. Passiamo ora ad un altro momento dedicato soprattutto alla partnership con l'Africa per lo sviluppo sostenibile. Il 2019 sarà un anno fondamentale chiaramente per lo sviluppo sostenibile, in cui sarà necessario fare il punto sulle azioni finora intraprese e valutare una revisione dell'Agenda 2030 o 2030. Lo sviluppo sostenibile e condiviso, come io auspico sempre, è il principale fondamento del dialogo tra l'Italia e l'Africa. Passo dunque la parola al presidente dell'IFAD, Fondo Internazionale per lo Sviluppo Agricolo, Sua Eccellenza Gilbert Fosun Ungbo. Grazie.
Thank you so much, Excellency Vice Minister Manuela del Rey, Honorable Ministers, Ambassadors, dear colleagues. Let me also start by thanking the people and the government of Italy for convening for the second time this Africa-Italia conference. From a partnership perspective, let me focus a little bit on, given that IFAD not only we are in smallholders, farming and non-farming activities, but the fact that 50% of our business in Africa, I would like to highlight the partnership between Italy and IFAD. Italy, that was one of the founding members of IFAD since the 77-78. Italy has remained an important and very valuable partner for all those years. I would like to say that from our perspective, Italy and IFAD, we have always shared the conviction that smallholder farming is quite critical for not only for food security, but also to nutrition. youth employment, as has been mentioned already all from my previous speakers, as well as for the SDG 1, the poverty reduction. We also share a commitment to zero hunger and to an inclusive development in Africa. Italy and IFAD, we have worked together to promote those food security and poverty reduction in several countries. Very, very specifically, I would like to point out our cooperation in Burkina Faso, Liberia, Mauritania, Niger, Sierra Leone, Somalia, and Sudan. In August, 2 or 3 months ago, I was able to see the visual, as we say, the benefit of our cooperation when I visited the Darge Grain collection in Niger. And this is part of a project that Italy and other partners are generously supporting, which builds market facilities and contributing to more than 230 kilometers of roads and linking the farmers not only to the market in the cities, but also into the market in the neighboring countries like Ghana. When you talk to the farmers with this contribution between Italy and IFAD in Niger, they were telling us that having access to better roads, having access to storage, not only have helped them to improve the fight against food waste and loss, but has also been able, obviously, to help them increase the net income and therefore being able to deal with the requests from their families. Better roads, reliable energy, like Vera said earlier, storage and warehousing help rural producers and food processors to connect to urban markets. At the same time, better infrastructure improves the quality of rural life and makes migration to the city less enticing for the rural youth. But when it comes to basic infrastructure, Sub-Saharan Africa ranks lower than other developing regions in the world. Let's consider a few facts. Only 1/3 of rural Africans live within 2 kilometers of an all-season road. That is costs 5 times as much as to transport a ton of rice in part of Central Africa as it does on major roads in Pakistan, for example. Around 5% of cultivated land in Africa is irrigated, compared to 41% in Asia. And only 19% of rural Africa, rural Africans have access to electricity, compared to 63% in urban area. But the consequences of all of this, obviously the low road density makes it more difficult and costly to get the produce to the market. The low road density as well and the high transportation cost also makes inputs expensive and difficult to get. A typical example is farmers in Sub-Saharan Africa pay 4 times more for fertilizers than farmers in Europe, for instance. It is a little surprise that farmers in Sub-Saharan Africa apply only around 1/10 the amount of fertilizer used in the rest of the world. Expensive and inaccessible electricity means that farmers do not have refrigeration, and therefore poor post-harvest storage affects the quality and the quantity of what is available for the market. We estimated between 20 to 40% of crops in Sub-Saharan Africa which are lost after harvest to pest, disease, and spoilage. Simply stated, for agricultural trade to flourish in Sub-Saharan Africa, together government, the the multilaterals and etc. Together, we need to have more focus on the region's continued infrastructure gaps. Because if a farmer cannot profitably market the surplus, there is no logical reason to produce more than the family can store or can consume. New roads, irrigation systems, processing plants, and warehouses must be planned and designed with the key partners on the continent themselves. These key players are smallholders farmers. In the continent, 98% of all agricultural holding are 10 hectares or less, and they account for 80% of agricultural land. And more than half of African farmers are women. So, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, the point I want to highlight is that investment in rural structure, investment in rural infrastructures matters, because investment in African agriculture matters, both for food security, but more importantly, for the economic development and for the fight against migration. I thank you.
Grazie Eccellenza anche per, non soltanto per averci chiaramente ricordato l'importanza degli investimenti nell'agricoltura, ma anche per aver menzionato le donne che va da sé sono assolutamente essenziali per qualsiasi processo di sviluppo, quindi la ringrazio molto per questo. Vorrei passare adesso a un'altra tematica che costituisce l'oggetto del prossimo panel, che è concentrato sulla pace e lo sviluppo, sulle prospettive subregionali, dal Sahel alla regione dei Grandi Laghi, all'Africa orientale e l'Africa centrale. Non è possibile uno sviluppo del continente che non si basi su una stabilità politica e su un dialogo di pace tra le nazioni del continente e all'interno di esse. È in quest'ottica fondamentale il dialogo con le principali aree subregionali del continente, aree che saranno oggi rappresentate da illustri ospiti qui presenti, è fondamentale. Adesso io passerò per primo la parola per l'area del Sahel, primo ma semplicemente per un ordine logistico, al Ministro degli Affari Esteri del Niger, Sua Eccellenza Kalla Ankurao. Prego prendere la parola, grazie.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Excellence, Madame Emanuela Deller, vice-ministre des Affaires étrangères et de la coopération d'Italie, Mesdames et Messieurs les ministres et chefs de délégation, Mesdames et Messieurs, je voudrais exprimer mes remerciements au gouvernement italien qui a bien voulu, pour la seconde fois consécutive, accueillir la deuxième session de la conférence ministérielle Italie-Afrique et pour toutes les dispositions qui ont été prises pour faciliter notre séjour à Rome. Je voudrais aussi me féliciter de cette marque de considération à l'endroit de mon pays et de ma modeste personne, en me donnant l'opportunité de m'adresser à la plénière de cette conférence. Mesdames et Messieurs, la première édition de la conférence ministérielle Italie-Afrique s'est tenue les 18 et 19 mai 2016 sur le thème de la paix et de la sécurité en Afrique. Les travaux de la présente édition portent sur les thèmes relatifs à la croissance économique, la promotion de la paix, le développement humain, avec un accent particulier sur la culture comme facteur de dialogue et de rapprochement entre les peuples. Notre rencontre se tient à un moment où la plupart de nos États font face à des défis multiples, notamment sécuritaires, migratoires, environnementaux, démographiques, etc., qui constituent autant d'obstacles pour l'accélération du développement de nos pays et l'amélioration de leurs conditions de vie, l'amélioration des conditions de vie de nos populations. En particulier, les États de l'espace sahélo-saharien connaissent une insécurité insécurité grandissante du fait des attaques terroristes et des activités d'organisations criminelles depuis la chute du régime de Kadhafi en Libye. Les États les plus confrontés à cette menace sécuritaire dans le Niger ont déjà consenti d'énormes sacrifices humains, financiers et sociaux pour préserver à l'intérieur de leurs frontières la paix et la quiétude indispensables à tout effort de développement. À titre d'exemple, le Niger consacre depuis plus de 5 ans 18% de son budget annuel aux dépenses de sécurité, alors que jusqu'en 2010, ce taux n'était que de 7%. Madame la Présidente, face à la persistance du péril et constatant que ces sacrifices ne pouvaient être supportés indéfiniment, malgré le concours de plusieurs partenaires du Niger, le président du Niger, Issoufou Mamadou, et plusieurs de ses pairs de la région sahélienne ont convenu de mutualiser leurs efforts et leurs moyens pour combattre plus efficacement le terrorisme et la criminalité transfrontalière. Ainsi, les pays riverains du lac Tchad ont créé la force multinationale mixte qui combat depuis 4 ans la secte Boko Haram. Elle est parvenue, fort heureusement, à réduire son implantation et sa capacité de nuisance. Plus à l'ouest, les États voisins du Mali et le Tchad ont décidé d'unir leurs moyens avec le Mali pour créer la force conjointe G5 Sahel en vue d'intensifier la lutte contre les groupes terroristes et là également contre la criminalité transfrontalière. Dans la partie nord de nos États, pour mieux contrer les infiltrations des terroristes, le Soudan, le Tchad et le Niger se sont associés à la Libye pour créer un mécanisme commun de surveillance et d'action contre toute menace à la sécurité de leurs territoires respectifs. Mesdames et messieurs, s'agissant de la force conjointe du G5 Sahel, force est de constater que son opérationnalisation n'est toujours pas totale, plus d'1 an après sa création. Pourtant, des initiatives louables ont été prises avec le soutien de plusieurs partenaires pour donner la puissance nécessaire à la mission de cette force. C'est le lieu de rappeler et de se féliciter des résultats de la conférence de Bruxelles en février 2018 qui a permis de boucler les besoins en financement pour la première année d'activité de cette force, dont les besoins ont été estimés à plus de 430 millions de dollars US. C'est le lieu également d'exprimer notre reconnaissance au gouvernement italien qui, à l'instar de l'Union européenne et de plusieurs pays européens et du Golfe, assure un soutien multiforme à la force conjointe du G5 Sahel. Nous formulons le vœu que ce soutien soit poursuivi et renforcé, parce que la victoire que nous recherchons contre le terrorisme sera la victoire de tous. Nous devrions notamment chercher tous ensemble les voies et moyens pour assurer à cette force un financement prévisible et pérenne. Il y va de la crédibilité et de l'efficacité de notre démarche. Mesdames et messieurs, le deuxième point de mon intervention porte sur la question migratoire. Conscient de ses responsabilités en tant que pays de transit par excellence de la migration clandestine et choqué par ses effets pervers, le Niger a pris des mesures appropriées pour combattre les aspects les plus négatifs et criminels de la migration. Ainsi, des instruments juridiques portant essentiellement sur la lutte contre l'immigration illégale et la traite des êtres humains ont été adoptés. Il s'agit de l'ordonnance 2010-86 du 16 décembre 2010 relative à la lutte contre la traite des personnes et de la loi 2015-36 du 26 mai 2015 sur le trafic illicite des migrants, ainsi que leur décret d'application. Une commission nationale et une agence de lutte contre la traite des personnes ont également été mises en place en tant qu'outil de mise en œuvre de cette nouvelle politique. La commission est l'organe de conception et d'orientation stratégique en matière de lutte contre la traite des personnes au Niger. tandis que l'agence est la structure opérationnelle d'exécution des politiques et stratégies nationales adoptées par la Commission. L'application rigoureuse de ces instruments et de ces nouvelles lois a abouti à des résultats spectaculaires. C'est ainsi qu'en 2 ans, le nombre de migrants en transit au Niger a été réduit de 90%, tout en agissant dans le strict respect des droits des migrants, du droit international humanitaire et des instruments de la CEDEAO portant notamment sur la libre circulation des personnes et des biens. Mesdames et messieurs, notre contribution à la lutte contre la migration clandestine est soutenue par notre réprobation, la réprobation des plus hautes autorités de mon pays contre les conditions inhumaines réservées aux migrants au-delà de nos frontières. Mais elle correspond aussi aux engagements pris par mon gouvernement au sommet euro-africain de la Valette en 2015. Malheureusement, tous nos efforts peuvent être anéantis si toutes les parties prenantes à ces sommets traînent à honorer leurs engagements, comme c'est le cas actuellement, notamment en termes de création d'économies alternatives dans les zones affectées. Nous ne souhaitons nullement un retour des acteurs de la migration clandestine à cette économie criminelle. Mais faute de soutien important de la part des partenaires, nous serons sans argument pour les convaincre de se désintéresser durablement de cette source de revenus. Mesdames et messieurs, le terrorisme et la migration clandestine sont dans une large mesure des conséquences d'une même cause, la misère. Le meilleur rempart à ces fléaux est donc le développement. C'est pourquoi nous plaidons inlassablement pour des investissements massifs au Sahel, pour résoudre les problèmes de la misère, du chômage des jeunes et du développement durable. Dans cette perspective, le partenariat Italie-Afrique nous semble montrer l'exemple. La prochaine conférence du partenariat pour le Sahel, prévue le 6 décembre à Nouakchott, nous donnera l'opportunité de revenir sur ces questions. Je vous remercie de votre attention.
Merci beaucoup, Eccellenza. Ora è il turno della regione africana dei Grandi Laghi. Il ministro degli affari esteri del Congo, Sua Eccellenza Jean-Claude Gakosso. Prego.
Excellence, Madame la vice-ministre des Affaires étrangères et de la coopération internationale de la République d'Italie, chère Emanuela, Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs les ministres des Affaires étrangères, mes chers collègues, Mesdames et Messieurs les ambassadeurs, distingués invités, Mesdames, Messieurs, je voudrais associer ma voix à toutes celles qui m'ont précédé pour dire un grand merci à notre collègue et ami Enzo Moavero Milanese, ministre des Affaires étrangères de la coopération internationale d'Italie, pour toutes les facilités, pour toutes les commodités mises à notre disposition afin de rendre notre séjour agréable dans cette ville millénaire chargée d'histoire. Mesdames et messieurs, pendant trop longtemps, en effet, l'Afrique est restée figée dans la mentalité de la dépendance extérieure. Pendant trop longtemps, elle a attendu que les solutions à ses problèmes, les solutions à ses maux viennent de l'étranger, notamment des anciennes tutelles coloniales. Aujourd'hui, fort heureusement, ce temps est révolu. L'Afrique est désormais adossée à un nouveau paradigme, à savoir, ainsi que le disait le ministre des Affaires étrangères d'Éthiopie à l'instant, à savoir aux problèmes africains, des solutions africaines. Bien évidemment, tout en restant ouverte, cette Afrique, aux apports de ses partenaires divers et variés dans la République italienne. Souvent traversé par des crises récurrentes, notre continent, chère Emanuela, est engagé résolument et de manière irrévocable à se prendre en charge lui-même. Et cela, on le voit déjà dans la réforme de l'Union africaine, conduite avec détermination par nos chefs d'État. Une réforme qui prévoit un financement autonome de l'essentiel des activités de l'Union, par elle-même. Dans cette Afrique en pleine mutation, chers amis, désormais, tous les partenariats stratégiques doivent être fondés sur une coopération honnête et sincère, sur des avantages réciproques. À cet égard, il me plaît de saluer la pertinence des thématiques retenues pour nos échanges. Il ne vous a pas échappé que ces thématiques nous invitent à nous pencher notamment sur le lien étroit entre stabilité politique et sécurité, sur le phénomène de l'extrémisme violent qu'évoquait à l'instant mon collègue du Niger, phénomène qui se nourrit, comme chacun sait, du prosélytisme religieux et ethnique. De même, la nécessité d'une plus grande implication de la femme dans les initiatives de paix et de sécurité, le renforcement de l'engagement des jeunes dans la lutte contre la radicalisation sont autant des moyens susceptibles d'aider à bâtir des sociétés plus justes, prospères et paisibles. Mesdames et messieurs, je viens des pays de la forêt, dans la région des Grands Lacs, comme certains de mes collègues de la RDC, de la RCA, du Cameroun, de l'Angola, de Guinée équatoriale, du Gabon, de Tanzanie, du Rwanda et j'en passe. Il y a quelques jours, du haut de la tribune des Nations Unies, au nom des pays des Grands Lacs et du bassin du Congo, je lançais un appel aux dirigeants du monde afin qu'ils unissent leurs forces pour protéger notre planète des conséquences désastreuses du changement climatique, notamment en œuvrant à protéger et à préserver l'inestimable patrimoine que constituent les immenses forêts équatoriales d'Afrique centrale et l'extraordinaire biodiversité qu'elles abritent. Aujourd'hui, mes chers amis, je voudrais profiter de la belle opportunité que m'offre notre conférence pour réitérer cet appel à l'endroit des donateurs et mécènes, à l'endroit des philanthropes et amis de la nature, à l'endroit de toutes les personnes de bonne volonté. Il nous faut agir ensemble et sans plus attendre si nous voulons assurer un air pur et sain à nos enfants, à nos descendants et à toute l'humanité. Aussi voudrais-je inviter le gouvernement italien à se joindre au gouvernement d'Afrique centrale afin qu'ensemble nous donnions force et vigueur aux précieux instruments que nous avons mis en place à la suite de l'accord de Paris sur le climat, à savoir la commission climat du bassin du Congo et le fonds bleu pour le bassin du Congo. Deux instruments, chers amis, destinés à préserver plus efficacement les eaux et forêts du bassin du Congo, deuxième poumon vert du monde et immense réservoir d'eau douce dont l'exubérance n'a d'égal sur terre que l'Amazonie. Mesdames et messieurs, voyageons un tout petit peu dans l'histoire. Comme la plupart des habitants de cette ville, je suis moi aussi un passionné d'histoire. Il y a un peu plus de 2000 ans, un grand homme politique de cette ville, Caton, terminait ses discours au Sénat par cette menace orageuse: Carthago delenda est, ce qui dans la langue des anciens voulait dire Carthage doit être détruite. Hélas, Carthage, qui symbolisait l'Afrique en ces temps antiques, fut effectivement détruite par Rome. Et comme vous le savez, elle le fut à la suite de la bataille de Zama sur le territoire de l'actuelle Tunisie. Une bataille menée par Scipion, ce général qui, de retour ici à Rome, prit le sobriquet de Scipion l'Africain. Ça, c'est pour l'histoire des anciens. Quant à nous, Africains, et italien des temps modernes, tout héritier de la Rome antique et de Carthage que nous sommes, eh bien nous devons être les bâtisseurs d'un monde nouveau. Nous devons être les bâtisseurs d'une nouvelle fraternité, d'une nouvelle humanité. Et ce, par-delà la Méditerranée, comme disait notre ami Mélanès tout à l'heure, et ce, par-delà ces préjugés tenaces liés à notre ignorance des uns par les autres, des préjugés que nous devons à tout prix vaincre. Ma chère Emmanuel, mes chers amis, à l'opposé du belliqueux Caton, l'Ancien, nous devrions terminer nos discours plutôt en proclamant « Carthage fut détruite, mais Carthage doit être reconstruite ». Évidemment, Carthage symbolise l'Afrique. L'Afrique a soif d'émergence et de reconnaissance. Unissons-nous pour l'aider à se reconstruire et à s'accomplir dans la dignité. C'est à mes yeux la responsabilité de notre génération devant l'histoire. Je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup Jean-Claude aussi pour m'avoir appelé Emanuela. Ça c'est l'esprit de la conférence, un esprit d'amitié certainement. Grazie tanto, passerei ora la parola al Ministro degli Affari Esteri della Tanzania per uno sguardo sulla regione dell'Africa orientale, Sua Eccellenza Augustin Mahiga. Prego.
Honorable Emanuela Del Rey, Italian Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation. At the outset, I wish to express my appreciation to your government for the warm reception and hospitality extended to us, to me and my delegation since our arrival in this beautiful city of Rome. Let me also take this opportunity to thank the Italian government over the years for the development assistance extended to several African countries, in fact all African countries, in the past 50 years. This has been a basis of friendship and partnership, and we have to recognize and thank the Italian government and the Italian people for their assistance through development assistance. In the same vein, let me recognize the tremendous efforts and dedication of the Italian private sector over the past 50 years in investing in infrastructure projects. The so-called giants of African dams have seen Italian engineers and workers engaged in it. Whether it is the Kariba Dam, or whether it is the Mtera Dam in my country, Tanzania, Italians have distinguished themselves not only in the energy sector, but also in the construction of roads and related infrastructure projects. It is in this connection that I want to thank Italy for its understanding and appreciation of our African needs. Your seat in the Security Council, which coming to the end at the end of this year, your role in the G7 in highlighting Africa's development challenges and African security and peace issues needs to be recognized and appreciated. I'm speaking on behalf of the East African and Southern African countries. East Africa is the scene of regional integration success. So is Southern Africa in the form of the SADC or Southern Africa Economic Community. These are areas. East Africa has a population of 200 million people. The Southern African region has a population of 400 million people. These are favorable destinations for Italian trade and Italian investment. What the development assistance and the previous investments have done to Africa and East Africa in particular is to create conditions for more investment from the Italian private sector. We, on our part, in East Africa and Southern Africa, we have embraced the private sector and we have embraced democratic dispensations. These are essential requirements for a successful economic development. The conditions are right in terms of infrastructure, in terms of governance considerations for the Italian private sector to come and invest in East and Southern Africa. We admit there have to be more work to be done to create more conducive environment for the private sector. And this should be the basis of dialogue, continuing dialogue, as it was said yesterday, between the Italian private sector, the Italian government, and our governments. Let me also give you assurance that in both the East African community and the South African development community, there are built-in mechanisms for conflict prevention, conflict resolution, and peace processes. This is taking cue in terms of subsidiarity from the institutions of the African Union in the ownership of the peace processes in Africa. In East Africa, for example, we are engaged through the East African community to facilitate the peace dialogue in Burundi through the chairmanship of President Museveni and the facilitation of former President Kaba of Tanzania. Through the Southern Africa Troika mechanism, there is a built-in mechanism for issues related to politics, peace, and security. And currently, we are engaged in following the very promising process in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, where we are going, hopefully, by the end of this year, to witness a sitting president supervising and witnessing a peaceful transition after elections in that country. Also, the Troika process in the SADC has been following with keen interest and with creativity and innovation to facilitate stability in Lesotho and Madagascar. Although these are promising developments, let me also caution that East Africa has been threatened by new threats in the international scene. Terrorism is not only a military dimension, but it is also an ideological dimension, which has a global agenda emanating from Somalia, where I served as the special representative of the Secretary General and witnessed the assistance that Italy extended to AMISOM. I want to thank you while at the same time sending a warning that Somalia is just a bridgehead. International terrorism, starting with Al-Qaeda in the form of Al-Shabaab, and now ISIS, is using that as a bridgehead to spread its ideology and reach out to other East African countries. At the same time, this is a global ideology. They are not confined to one country. They have a mission, and this is a threat we are witnessing in Tanzania, in the Great Lakes region, and it's spilling over in northern Mozambique, as some of you may have been following. In terms of the presence of the Islamic State, the Caliphate at some point extended into East Africa. And in the literature of ISIS, there is still a nostalgic feeling that East Africa must again be brought into the historic caliphate, and therefore we are facing this in our part of the world. We are also witnessing illicit trade. We almost face an extinction of the elephant in Tanzania, but we have responded relentlessly to that, and the elephant population is now returning in leaps and bounds. Drug trafficking as a destination and as a transit, using the traditional dhows along the Indian Ocean, is one of the global threats that countries like mine are facing. And that goes together with the illicit arms trade and human trafficking. I call upon our friends, the Italian government, to join hands with us in development, in peace and security, and in advancing the agenda for which Italy stands for in the Security Council. Thank you very much indeed for your attention.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency Mahiga, for this very comprehensive portrait of the region. Adesso, ultimo ma non per importanza, naturalmente è il turno dell'Africa centrale e quindi io vorrei passare la parola al vice primo ministro e ministro degli affari esteri della Repubblica Democratica del Congo, Sua Eccellenza Leonard She Okitundu Lundula. Prego.
Excellences, Monsieur le Ministre et Madame la Vice-Ministre des Affaires étrangères et de la coopération internationale, Excellences, Monsieur le Vice-président de la Commission de l'Union africaine, distingués invités, Mesdames et Messieurs, je voudrais de prime abord remercier le gouvernement de la République d'Italie pour son invitation à participer à ces assises, ainsi que pour l'accueil chaleureux qui a été réservé à ma délégation et que je conduis. Cette deuxième conférence Italie-Afrique, après celle tenue en 2016, marque la volonté des autorités italiennes et africaines de pérenniser et de consolider ce cadre structuré pour une coopération renouvelée et renforcée entre nos deux entités. En effet, ce forum tombe à point nommé, car il se tient en pleine crise migratoire avec ses causes et ses conséquences. La République démocratique du Congo, sans féliciter, souhaite vivement que cette conférence trace les sillons concrets d'un partenariat Italie-Afrique plus fort qui augure des lendemains meilleurs. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, au-delà de la spécificité des relations entre l'Italie et l'Afrique, nos relations s'inscrivent dans un cadre plus global, à savoir les relations entre l'Union africaine et l'Union européenne. À cet effet, le 12 septembre, à l'occasion de son discours sur l'état de l'Union, le président Jean-Claude Juncker, au nom de la Commission européenne, a proposé une nouvelle Afrique-Europe pour des investissements et des emplois durables, visant à fortement dynamiser les investissements privés en Afrique, à renforcer les échanges et à créer des emplois, à investir dans l'éducation et les compétences, conformément aux engagements pris lors du sommet Union africaine-Union européenne qui s'est tenu en novembre 2017 à Abidjan. Sur papier, cette initiative européenne semble charmante, cependant, elle ne peut se concrétiser que par une forte volonté commune et portée par des actes concrets. Le sommet Italie-Afrique actuel est en phase avec ce souhait européen. Principal investisseur européen en Afrique en 2016, il est donc de bon aloi que la République d'Italie, pays membre fondateur de l'Union européenne et l'un de ses moteurs économiques par excellence, accentue le renforcement de ses relations avec le continent africain dans l'atteinte des objectifs de développement durable prévus par l'agenda 2030 des Nations Unies et 2063 de l'Union africaine, ainsi que pour mon pays, dans le programme Révolution de la modernité, porté par son Excellence Joseph Kabila Kaboré, président de la République. À cet effet, plusieurs défis sont à relever pour arriver à une croissance économique partagée et un partenariat équilibré et gagnant-gagnant entre notre continent et l'Italie. Premièrement, celui de la jeunesse africaine. Avec une population estimée à près d'1,2 milliard de personnes en 2017, dont un âge moyen de 19 ans, l'Afrique après l'Asie, est le deuxième continent le plus peuplé au monde, mais aussi le continent avec la population la plus jeune, mais la plus économiquement active. En 2050, notre continent représentera le quart du réservoir mondial de main-d'œuvre. Les médias occidentaux font les choux gras dans les sommaires quotidiens de ce qu'ils considèrent comme une bombe démographique à retardement pour la sécurité européenne. Ces centaines de jeunes Africains désespérés qui, au péril de leur vie, à bord d'embarcations de fortune, échouent sur le continent européen, notamment sur les côtes italiennes qui subissent le plus souvent ce phénomène. Pour y mettre fin, sédentariser cette population et transformer cette bombe présumée en opportunité économique durable, il est crucial que l'Afrique et l'Italie, et pourquoi pas l'Europe, au nom de leurs responsabilités partagées, investissent massivement dans les secteurs ci-après. D'abord, le capital humain, à savoir une éducation et une formation technique et professionnelle de qualité orientée vers le besoin de développement durable africain, notamment les nouvelles technologies de l'information et de la communication, les infrastructures, le bâtiment et l'agriculture. Secondo, la transformation structurelle de l'économie africaine par une industrialisation poussée, tournée vers le domaine à haute intensité de main-d'œuvre, d'employabilité et d'autonomisation, notamment l'agriculture et la manufacture moderne, les domaines où le savoir-faire italien est mondialement reconnu. Priorité devra être accordée au développement du secteur rural, principale source de revenus et gage de sécurité alimentaire de nos populations, afin que notre continent puisse vaincre ce contraste d'importation des denrées alimentaires alors qu'il dispose des terres arables en grande quantité. Ainsi, dans mon pays, plusieurs projets de parcs industriels sont prêts, avec des études de faisabilité, mais en manque de financement. Les zones économiques spéciales, facteurs de croissance, sont déterminées et en cours de concrétisation, notamment celle de Maluku en périphérie de Kinshasa. Tertio, la promotion des grands travaux d'infrastructures, notamment dans le domaine de l'énergie, ressource sine qua non pour son industrialisation. Sur ce plan, à titre informatif, l'accord de développement exclusif du projet INGA 3 entre l'Agence pour le développement et la promotion du Grand INGA de la République démocratique du Congo et le consortium China INGA 3 de la Chine et Pro INGA d'Espagne a été signé récemment à Kinshasa. Cette étape cruciale ouvre la voie à la concrétisation de ce barrage d'avenir pour l'industrialisation africaine, source d'énergie propre portée à 11 000 MW avec un potentiel de 44 000 MW. Je tiens à rappeler le rôle que l'Italie a joué en son temps, dès 1958, avec le CICAL comme ingénieur conseil pour INGA 1 et 2. Ce partenariat demeure ouvert aux autres entreprises intéressées, notamment italiennes, aussi les infrastructures de transport, ponts, routes et ports, d'interconnexion du marché africain pour le rendre endogène et compétitif mondialement sont nécessaires conformément au plan du NEPAD. Le secteur privé étant le premier créateur de richesse et de prospérité économique, il est important que les entreprises italiennes accentuent leurs investissements directs étrangers en Afrique dans ces domaines prioritaires, notamment avec des entreprises africaines et congolaises, pour créer une classe heureuse africaine d'entrepreneurs. L'Afrique a désormais créé une zone de libre-échange continentale dont la mise en œuvre était patiemment attendue. C'est un développement historique. L'Afrique a pris conscience que son développement est plus que jamais tributaire des investisseurs directs étrangers, dont ceux de partenaires extra-continentaux, en particulier l'Italie. D'où le progrès dans l'amélioration du climat des affaires, palpable partout dans le continent, la République démocratique du Congo comprise. Avec ces 4 domaines d'intervention majeure, il est possible de donner un coup de pouce important au développement continental et ainsi faire à nouveau relever notre jeunesse d'une Afrique nouvelle où il fait mieux vivre. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, la lutte contre le changement climatique est un enjeu majeur dans notre partenariat. L'Afrique, pourtant continent le moins pollueur, est celui qui subit le plus fortement les conséquences du dérèglement climatique. Si nous souhaitons réellement un développement durable, équitable, qui n'hypothèque nullement l'avenir de nos générations futures, il est indispensable de concrétiser, dans le cadre de l'accord de Paris sur le climat, les mécanismes de compensation financiers pour les pays africains, notamment mon pays qui détient 150 millions d'hectares de forêts, représentant près de 50% des forêts d'Afrique et plus de la moitié, 60% du massif forestier du bassin du Congo, considéré, comme l'a dit mon collègue tout à l'heure, à juste titre, comme le deuxième poumon de la planète après l'Amazonie. Cela permettra, à travers la promotion des énergies renouvelables et la promotion des massifs forestiers, de développer des bases d'une économie verte africaine. Excellences, mesdames et messieurs, le changement de paradigme relationnel entre nos deux entités est un enjeu majeur. La coopération traditionnelle, vieille de près de 60 ans, par l'aide au développement, instrument de solidarité ponctuelle, a montré ses limites. Les résultats mitigés de ces dispositifs ont démontré qu'il n'est nullement une stratégie de développement en soi. En République démocratique du Congo, nous menons une réflexion approfondie pour conceptualiser un nouveau mode de coopération plus efficace et mutuellement avantageuse avec nos partenaires, notamment sur les négociations post-Cotonou. Pour la stimulation d'une croissance inclusive et une prospérité partagée, l'Italie et l'Afrique doivent donc imaginer des mécanismes qui facilitent l'investissement, les échanges et l'accès au crédit pour le financement des projets d'intérêt commun. L'association d'un troisième partenaire dans le cadre de la coopération triangulaire est vivement encouragée. C'est ainsi que nous parviendrons à établir des partenariats solidaires, porteurs d'opportunités et mutuellement bénéfiques, à la place de la relation traditionnelle bailleur-bénéficiaire. En conclusion, le Forum Italie-Afrique est un cadre qui permet à l'Italie, partenaire naturel de l'Afrique, de contribuer efficacement au développement du continent africain. Excellences, mesdames et messieurs, en cette année où nous célébrons le centenaire de l'anniversaire de Nelson Mandela, grand homme africain, je voudrais conclure par une de ces citations pour encourager à renforcer le partenariat entre l'Italie et l'Afrique. Je cite, « Aucun de nous, en agissant seul, ne peut atteindre le succès que vive la République d'Italie et l'Afrique. » Je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup, Excellence, pour avoir partagé votre important concept. Mi avvio alla conclusione. Grazie davvero a chi ha parlato. Grazie molto a chi ha ascoltato. Credo che lasciamo questa sala veramente arricchiti di moltissime idee, ispirazioni e penso che questo sia naturalmente la migliore prospettiva per continuare a lavorare insieme in modo produttivo, così come ci hanno appunto invitato a fare tutti i relatori ed è lo spirito effettivo di questa conferenza. Ci vediamo più tardi, il nostro maestro di cerimonia ci vuole dare qualche indicazione.
Lo dico in italiano pregando gli interpreti di tradurre per tutti. Allora, i capi delle delegazioni, i ministri e viceministri, quarto piano per il lunch nell'appartamento del ministro, tutti gli altri ospiti alla mia destra, cioè vostra sinistra, sala Mappamondi, è allestito un lunch buffet. Grazie. I liaison officer vi guideranno presso le rispettive destinazioni.